On today's podcast, we have Joshua Smith, legendary coach and team lead out in the Arizona area. He sold over 7,000 houses, been in the game over 20 years, and has coached more agents than anyone else I know. He's been the person that has changed my career more than anyone else. Today, we talked about AI. We talked about what it takes to survive in this industry. So sit back, get ready to take some notes. It's going to be an epic podcast. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for coming to the podcast, man. Like, this is pretty epic. When you sent me that comment on Facebook, I was like, oh, shit, this is the real deal. I've been preparing all week. I will say this. I prepared more for this podcast than anyone else ever did. Sorry for all my other guests, but I really appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule for coming on.
Yeah, no, I'm honored to be here, man. And it's been awesome, getting to know you on this journey, dude, and watching all your continued success and all the things that you're up to, man. So, I commend you on all your continued success. And like I said, dude, truly honored to be here with you.
Thanks, man. Do you ever get tired of being like Joshua Smith, where like every person you talk to has some like epic story on how you changed your life? Like for you, like I found you on YouTube in like 2014, and I'll never forget. I was like in a Iowa hotel, and your 90-day coaching program was coming up, and I was like putting it on a credit card before I even had my real estate license. Like, do you ever get like, dude, I'm just a real estate, like I just know how to sell houses or coach people. Like, does it ever get tiring to be like hearing all these epic stories, or unbelievable that you've done all that?
Nah, dude, it's no. I mean, it gives me the fuel that I need. Before we hit the record button here, you were like, man, I don't know how you produce the amount of content that you produce. But dude, it's just those consistent. I mean, that's the fuel, man, right? It just solidifies the impact and the mission, and so no, I can't say that it's ever gotten to a point where I get like
Yeah.
I love hearing more and more of it, and the more I'm planning on impacting many more, dude. So no, I love it, dude.
Yeah.
It's feedback, from the marketplace that what you're putting out there is of impact, dude. So
Yeah. Do you ever, anyone, you have to go watch Josh's content. He puts out almost a video every single day about, it's almost like now becoming my daily routine, how I start my day. I like wake up, have coffee, watch Josh's new podcast or coaching thing. So have you over the years realized, because there's always, you've always said like everyone has a way that something works. It's just, there's no perfect way. Is it mental most of the time? Do you feel like with most agents? Because like I remember going to conferences, I'm like, what's the thing? And then it's like, as I've been going on, it's really just like what's between your ears. Do you feel like that is what you see the difference between top agents and people that just never get started in this industry?
yeah. Yeah, there's a few things there, dude. Right. So the mental game is extremely important, and not to get like too philosophical with this, but the biggest issue that we have right now, just with society, right? When you just look at like all these problems, all this crap going on, and whether you look at the mental health epidemic or just how many, how unmotivated, depressed people are to, other issues, it's like, okay, we have entered one of the biggest, if not the biggest, at least from recorded history, times of decadence of maybe an all time of humanity. So people's biggest underlying issue today is their true obsession and addiction to comfort. There's a saying out there that I love, which is the treasures you seek are found in the caves you're too afraid to enter. So when life is so damn comfortable, when can order anything within seconds on your phone, people don't have to face adversity, you know, um, well, that creates a whole slew of new challenges. So like I've found, dude, like it's like, okay, I can deliver anybody the blueprint. I can give anybody like within 5 minutes of talking with anybody, identifying where they're at, where their goals are at, what their strengths, weaknesses are. Like, dude, we can deliver the right blueprint where they know exactly what to do every single day to make sure that they're hitting their goal. That isn't the issue. I mean, it's important to have the plan, but people's bigger issue is their inability to consistently execute on that plan for a long enough period of time to make their goals a reality. And the reason that most people have issues with execution is because they're so accustomed to seeking comfort. It's like when people come to me and I ask them like, oh, dude, what's your goal? And they're like, oh, I just want to be happy. And not to be a dick, but I'm like, that's the dumbest fucking goal on the
Well, it's
planet,
not
right?
measurable. It's not measurable. Like I'll have my team, they're like, I just want to be successful. What does that even mean? It's non-trackable goals. And I think the reason why people do this, and I'd love to know your opinion on it, is that if it's untrackable, no one can hold them accountable of reaching that goal. It's
Yeah,
untrackable.
well, it's untrackable, but then from there, it's delusional, right? Like, okay, if there's 8 core emotions that we're going to experience as a human being, okay, any well-centered human being or emotionally healthy, regulated human being understands that they're going to experience happiness probably 1/8 of the time. So it's like, okay, like you can't create success unless you're truly committed. What is commitment? Commitment is doing the necessary actions that you must do regardless of your emotional state. But to show up and execute, whether you're depressed, whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're feeling shame, guilt, whatever that emotion is, right? That's uncomfortable for people to go out there and do. And again, people are just so damn addicted to, because they've been domesticated this way, to that comfort zone. Well, success only happens outside that comfort zone. So that's kind of that mental component of like, okay, if you want to create success, success only happens through pain, through adversity. So everybody's trying to do everything they can to avoid pain, but they want to go out there and experience happiness. I'm like, dude, the only way to happiness is through pain. Yeah, right. Like you need to be running to that pain. You got to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's where the success happens. And so yeah, you gotta completely switch that framework and develop that muscle. You know, then from there, yeah, you got to make sure that you have that right blueprint. I can't remember the actual original
Yeah.
question that you
Yeah.
asked me. So
No,
I'm
you're
losing
right.
my train of
No,
thought.
you know what the big thing is, and this is huge. And guys, you have to hit Josh up. I can't believe you're doing this. You're giving away 1 hour free coaching. Like that's absolutely insane. What was your reason on wanting to do that? Because I think everyone should take you up on that one to talk about the blueprint. But why did you do that? And what are you seeing the common themes on those calls?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm only going to be doing it for about, I don't know, another 2 to 3 weeks.
I gotta make sure my assistant watch this, sign us up for that
Yeah,
just in
yeah.
case.
So, I originally was stopping them September 7th, but I had so many people hitting me up just, because everybody waits last minute
Yeah,
to
yeah,
book shit.
yeah.
So, but with those, so what led me to doing them is, okay, no, I've been doing this for 20 years. And even during the great financial crisis, like I'm seeing more in our industry struggle today than I even saw during the great financial crisis. I've never seen anything like this. You're either crushing it and killing it, or you are getting your ass beat and just freaking dying. You know, and look, dude, this industry has changed every aspect of my life. This might sound corny, but the reality is, dude, is college dropout, never made more than $10 an hour, jumped in this industry, changed every aspect of my life. This industry's given me so much, and not just in the way of income, but in the relationships, it's given me purpose. It's given me so much. I truly believe that real estate's the best vehicle that exists on the planet. And from there, like, dude, I would have never have created the success that I've created if I didn't have mentors that were pouring into me, helping me at a point in time where I could never reciprocate. I couldn't reciprocate financially. I couldn't reciprocate from, a knowledge standpoint. I had people spending hours with me in the beginning, just helping me come up with my blueprint. And I made a commitment early on of like, all right, dude, if I ever get to these guys' levels, if I ever go out there and create success, like I'm gonna become that guy, right? That gives back. I'm gonna do what they did for me for as many others as I can in this industry. So I just saw it as an opportunity. I mean, number one, people were hurting, but then also, again, this might sound corny, but a way for me to pay back my mentors that have poured into me, because again, I wouldn't be where I am. I mean, 48 deals my first year, 103 the second, just over 300 the third, and just kept scaling from there. Again, dude, like that. Yeah, I put in the work, but I had people giving me the blueprint that didn't need to. But then from there, man, I didn't realize it was going to blow up in the way that it did. So I've done 532 of these to date,
That's crazy.
year to date. So, and this is why I can't keep them going, because it's getting to the point where it's becoming a full time job just to which I'm also at a point where I've got amazing people. I don't have to put in the 100-hour or 80-hour work weeks like I used to. So, it was also, I had the time to do it, but it's getting to the point where I don't anymore. So, okay, what I learned from that, dude, is okay, now these are people that are reaching out to me that are typically struggling. Realtors, team leaders, broker owners at all different levels. Typically their business is down 40, 50, 60% from what they were accustomed to. And there's two commonalities that they all share. And that some of them, it's one of the two, sometimes it's both. Number one, they're not treating their business as a business. So 2012 to middle of 2022, longest bull market in recorded history, longest real estate expansion in recorded history, longest economic expansion in recorded history. That was just fucking easy street, right? So you could kind of show up, kind of wing it, kind of work hard, kind of be, somewhat semi commit. Like you could just half ass it and go out there and make multiple six figures. So people got so accustomed to just winging it. And what do I mean by winging it? versus treating your business as a business. All right. I know if you're winging it, okay, number one, if you're not tracking the essential KPIs that you must be tracking in your business on a daily level. Number two, when you show up to the office, if you're like, well, I'm going to work hard today, but what am I going to do? That means you're just winging it, right? So treating your business as a business, if I were to unpack that, it's, okay, again, making sure that you're tracking the essential KPIs that you got tracking your business is the only way to create predictability and know your areas of opportunity and growth. Then from there, okay, you're obsessing over strategy. So in strategy, operating from a strategy with precision. So you know exactly what you must do every day, every week, every month to go out there and win. So exactly how many leads you must generate per source, how many reach outs, conversations, appointment set, appointment conductions, clients closings. Like you have a plan, a strategy plan that you're able to execute on with precision. Then from there, okay, what does every great operator do? Go out there and build out processes for every step of that strategy to ensure everything's done the same way each and every single time. Things don't get forgotten. And then you have those processes wrapped up inside of a system. And then eventually, not that you got to do this to treat your business as a business, but you do those things right if you want to continue and grow and scale. Then you got to crack the leverage piece of how to plug people into that. That's what I mean by treating your business as a business. Because I'm telling you guys, like anybody watching or listening to this, shit is going to get way worse before it gets better. Like it isn't what we just experienced over the last 10 to 12 years will never probably exist again. First time since 1776 we've seen anything close to that. So this is more normal than that was, right? So he or she that's the greatest operator is winning right now. The secondary thing, the second item is, okay, they got so used to being able to play defense and they haven't pivoted to playing strategic offense. So defense is when we're just waiting for shit to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I built my business and dude, I'm talking to especially like team leaders, right? That have been running operating team for maybe 10, 15 years. They got to a point where they're doing 300 units a year through past client repeat referral business. Now their business is cut in half and they don't know what to do. But again, if you look at, okay, what are we experiencing right now? It is the most unaffordable time to be alive as a U.S. citizen. So we're in this crazy unaffordability crisis. So we've essentially wiped out half of the people that used to be able to partake in our product, real estate, that no longer can. Now, we haven't had a big real estate exodus, and that's probably because of all this, Uber and all this other bullshit. It's easier to like
make extra
have
cash real
a
quick.
side gig and keep in the game. So when we look at it, like we've never seen a competitive landscape like this in our industry. When you look at number of listings, number of closings versus number of realtors, at no time since the inception of NAR over 100-year recorded period of time have we seen this type of competitiveness. So then with that, it's like, okay, you can't sit back and play defense. What do I mean by strategic offense, right? So that's what I mean by defense, which is what most people are playing. Again, they're just winging it, playing defense. So strategic offense is, okay, strategic, you're getting you are extremely laser focused on whom you are targeting that has the highest probability of needing your services in this market. And then so that's by strategy. Yeah, right. So we're operating not like shotgunning things out. We're operating like a sniper scope. So who has, again, the highest probability of needing your services right now in this market due to the economic climate that we are in? So if you're doing a lot of lead gen, lead follow up, and you're like, oh, dude, nobody seems to have any motivation, urgency, you got the wrong strategy, targeting the wrong people. Then from offense, okay, what are you doing that's in your full control, your fate's in your own hands to show up to the office each and every day and put shit together? So an example of this, 2 years ago, I pivoted to going after divorces internally with my team as a way to go out there and get listings, right? So we saw, okay, most unaffordable time to be alive, right? Number one reason for divorce is financial hardship. Went out there, did our due diligence on that, seeing if that was an area of opportunity. That's obviously a life situation changes. Like nobody goes and buys real estate because they're like, oh, let me go jump on the internet and see what interest rates are today and see if I should go buy. It is life situation changes, right? Like you get married, going to go out there, buy a house, right? You start having a couple kids, then you get a bigger house, then maybe you have another kid or two, get a bigger house. Those kids leave, you downsize. Then you get to the point where you can't take care of yourself anymore. You sell that house, move in with family or assisted living, or you have detours in between there, relocations, divorces. So people buy and sell real estate based on situation changes. So we're identifying, okay, what are those situation changes that people are experiencing now? And how can we target those people specifically? Those are the people that need to buy and sell, not want to buy and sell. So as I'm targeting divorces, then I get so many people like, oh, so you develop a relationship with attorneys? And I'm like, no, dude, like, I'm not saying not to do that. That's something on the back burner. But again, that's me playing defense. That's waiting for an attorney to refer me
Yeah,
business.
yeah, yeah.
I'm playing offense. So let me get the data directly. Let me call them directly, reach out to them directly. So again, if you want to produce in this market, man, you got to play strategic offense. So those are the two things that those that are doing those two things at a high level are just murdering it and have the best, years and months of their career. But unfortunately, the vast majority of our industry hasn't pivoted to those, and they're just getting their ass beat.
Yeah. The big thing you said is, and it helped me do 25 deals my first year, was following you. And so I know you currently right now have your own coaches. What are people going in the direction? Because even though it's so funny, when real estate slows down, now everyone's a real estate guru and everyone wants to sell you programs and everyone wants to. And so I see a lot of agents go down with the wrong coaches because they look cool on Instagram. And I think that's probably one of the worst things with our industry now is I can rent a Lambo and I can wear a suit and I can wear a watch and everyone thinks I sell real estate and I sell nothing. So how are you finding your coaches and what kind of questions are you asking for them to like vet out before you go down that path? Or what are the questions you think someone should ask a coach before hiring them, going to their masterminds or something like that?
Yeah, dude. So okay, so first off, and look, man, I exhausted, my first probably 15 years of my real estate journey. At that point in time, I'd spent, well over $1 million on coaches and consultants and whatever. Like I've always been, and still to this point in time, like I've got a coach in every aspect of my life that's important to me. I believe in always having a coach. But I will tell you, dude, like the first 700 grand of that, I pissed away. And that wasn't, I used to blame it on the coaches, now I'm not going to say that sometimes it isn't the coach's fault, but what I'm just being honest and peeling back the onion layers and really reflecting on this, I didn't know how to identify the right coach for me, right? So step number one with this, any element of self-development, whether it's a coach, whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a webinar, like you have to, I'll walk you through my mastery framework. So you have to be able to identify, okay, what is the biggest bottleneck? What is it that you need to be to gain expertise in? Because at the end of the day, all of this is just about skill set acquisition. So you first identify this by asking yourself, and you gotta take the time to do the due diligence on this, peeling back the onion layer of, okay, what is the thing that if I can get this dialed in right now in my real estate business, it'll make the biggest immediate overall impact and take me to the next level. So, what is the biggest obstacle that I am facing that I must get dialed in? That if once I get this dialed in, boom, I'll get to the next level. And here's the thing, dude, you get that dialed in, you create a little bit more success, boom, you're going to have more problems, and like the more success you create, the bigger the problems get, right? So, because here's the thing: is there's no great coach for all things. So then from there, it's okay if I identify the area of my business that I need to get home. Let's just say it's a new agent. Okay, well, if like a first thing that a new agent needs to master is new client acquisition. So like they got to dial in their tracking systems, dial in their CRM, dial in their listing buyer presentation, dial in their sphere of influence, past client, follow up system, and then dial in their new client acquisition strategies. Like if you don't have those things dialed in, when all four of those, all five of those things need to come together to be successful at client acquisition. Like, okay, if you don't have those dialed in, you shouldn't be doing anything else other than mastering those things, right? But at different phases, you're gonna need to master, you're gonna have new problems, you're gonna master new things. So, but how do you go out there and select the right coach if you don't know what it is that you got to fix? It's like, okay, like, I don't know, like, okay, it's like a doctor to fix you. They got to run a bunch of tests to do that precision, right? A coach isn't going to do those tests for you out of the gate. They're just going to try to say their bullshit that they have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you got to this is your responsibility, right? So then from there, then I look at, okay, what is the best medium for me to go out there and solve this problem? Because sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's a conversation, sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's a webinar, sometimes it's a conference. So then I look at, okay, what is the right medium to solve this? And then let's just say it ends up being a coach. Well, then from there, personally, I do not take advice from anybody, and I'm not willing to learn from anybody that hasn't personally created the success I'm looking to go out there and create. So if they're not a rock star at this thing, if they haven't proven this thing, if they haven't dialed this thing in, then from there, I'm not going to listen to them, right? And then I'll take it a step further, because one thing I had to learn the hard way around is, okay, you get a lot of people that might have personally created success at something, but they're not introspective enough and didn't document enough and didn't pay attention to it enough of what actually led to their success. Like I had one of my first mentors was this way. dude was so damn successful, but he didn't know why he was so successful. Now, for me, luckily, I've always been an introvert, so very observant. So, I had to kind of just through observation be able to pinpoint so I could learn from him. But when I'm having conversations with the dude, like he would pull out things like how thick his cardstock was on his postcards and how he used UV coating laminate. But it wasn't
Yeah.
like the dude had a natural gift for copywriting. He was so charismatic. He was such a great connector. Had a hustle component. Like there were underlying things that he just didn't know that those things were allowed to be successful. So then I want to see evidence. Okay, how many others, like you've been able to create success with this thing, which to me is a given. They got to be able to do that. But then from there, okay, how many others have you been able to prove and show that have been able to have success with this thing too? So then I can see evidence, that this is the right person to get me from where I'm at to where I want to go.
Yeah, the hard part is like sometimes you're so good at something you just unconsciously do it, and it's so when people ask us, it's like the guy that's 7'2" and plays in the NBA. Like he's 7'2". He might not be able to teach us those things, and so that's why it's so hard sometimes when people are like, "I'm just successful." Like I don't know how I did it. It just is. What it is. So for you, like how, when you were coming up, and I think a lot of people struggle with momentum. I think that's the biggest thing is when you get momentum, then you want to you want to come in more often. So when you're facing when you're taking L's and you're not feeling momentum that you're moving in the right direction, is there's things that you do, or are there people you talk to kind of get those things going in the right direction to not give up?
Well, so first off, like let's talk about, okay, so burnout is a real thing, and I think that that's what you're kind of really leading to is, I mean, so many people are experiencing burnout and then they stop, right? So when we look at, okay, why does burnout happen in the first place? So burnout happens in the first, so burnout is work related, feels a lot like depression, but the difference between burnout and depression is when you're depressed, you're going to lose any element of joy in all aspects of your life. Or burnout, like you just fucking loathe and lose joy for work, right?
Yeah.
So then from there, burnout though exists when the work that you are putting in, you're not seeing the expected rewards based on the work that you're putting in. So then from there, one of the reasons why I don't want to say I've never experienced it, but it's been for very, very brief periods of times where like I'm able to execute with more passion, more vigor, and after being in this 20 years versus year one, right? So with this though is okay, the more clarity that you can get on what you want, why it's important to you, because you got to know, like you got to have the compass, you got to have the North Star. Clarity is power. So, like you said earlier, like people are like, "Oh, I just want to be successful." They haven't defined that. You got to define what that shit is. Like, like, why are you doing this? What is it that you actually want to go out there and create? Nobody else's goals. They got to be your own. But then from there, you need to take the time to identify the best proven plan to get you from where you're at to where you want to go. And that's the element, when people always ask me, like, dude, like, how the hell did you close, getting 48 deals first year, 103 the second, and just continue? I mean, now I'm, sold well over 7,000 homes. And I'm like, hey, dude, like, I've not wasted a second trying to figure any of this out on my own. It's like when I've heard, yeah, I mean, while I was even going to real estate school, I'm interviewing every top producer in my market that I possibly could. Anybody I saw on a billboard, listening on radio, whatever, I'm, asking if I can pick their brains. So before I even got licensed, I had the blueprint. Then from there, okay, choosing my first brokerage, I'm like, okay, who is the person that's created the long-term success that I want to create? So who is the freaking badass? And I didn't care what I had to pay him. I didn't care what splits were. I didn't care about any of that. Right. I just, was smart enough of knowing like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need to find the biggest badass, so I went out there and found him, right? One of the top realtors in the country, one of the top team leaders in the country, also happened to own the brokerage. So I was able to, go under his umbrella for my first 10 years. Not having to join his team, but he coached me on joining my own team because I knew that's the path I wanted to go, where he still, got a reward, from me. Now people will be like, oh, dude, yeah, but you paid him so much money. I mean, I was paying $250,000 a year in commissions and fees, which I was happy to pay him.
Because
Because
who would
guess
have
what?
known if you would? It's 0 is 0. Like it's so crazy. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, dude. Like,
yeah,
people are like, oh, dude,
it's so funny.
yeah, because like now, dude, I've made over $50 million in just straight commissions and in this
I think it
business.
was worth it. I think it was worth
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I'm like, look, dude, I wouldn't have got to 50 million if I wasn't willing to invest. Like the shit that I learned from him was just invaluable. I wouldn't, right? So, but then from there, it's like, okay, but I had the plan, I had the blueprint, so I didn't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. So I was able to get my first client within my first 4 days, and then get them on a contract and get that deal closed within the first month of being in the business. And then it just catapulted. But I always tell people, like, dude, like, I made sure I had the right plan, but then also because I was extremely clear on why I must create success in this vehicle, that then I had the fire and the passion. So it was that combination of that fire and that passion, plus the right blueprint. And then from there, I found that you don't necessarily have to experience that burnout. But then from there, on another way, is this is a big mistake so many people make. So I'll talk to agents all the time. They'll be like, "Oh, dude," they'll tell me like things like, "Oh, I want to grow my business through YouTube and social organic." And I'll be like, "Okay, hey, those things are amazing. I do those things too. Those things make me millions of dollars. Like, I freaking love them." But then I'll ask them, "Okay, how long can you go without a paycheck before you're in trouble?" About 4 months. Okay, well, here's the conundrum. Like, YouTube is an example. I don't care how, like, you execute on everything flawlessly. You got the right blueprint, which is hard enough as it is because it's a little bit of a science. But let's just say you got the right blueprint, you execute on it flawlessly. Okay, on average, it's usually about 9 to 12 months before we start seeing consistent business coming in from that. So you're going to be out of money before you start to see the fruits of those labors. So we got to deal in timeline. This is what we got to deal in realities. So it's like, okay, how quickly do you need to scale up your business? Because if you got to turn your situation around 3 to 4 months, as much as you hate them and as much as you might not like to do them, you're going to have to do prospecting based sources. If I got somebody that's like, hey, I need to make 100 grand in the next 4 months, okay, I can easily get you there. But dude, you are going to have to, dealing in realities, scale up prospecting based sources, which I know is what the vast majority of our industry doesn't want to do. But inbound marketing based sources just fucking take longer. They have a long, those are going to be more that 6 to 12 month timeline nurture. So a lot of people also don't take the time to deal in realities of, okay, what is my own personal timeline? Then let me build a strategy that gets me to the target with the timeline, so they don't have realistic expectations of how long this stuff is going to take. I see this all the time, like paid Facebook ads. People are like, oh, I tried that for 4 months and it didn't work for me. I'm like, okay, well, the average paid Facebook lead is in my CRM for 6.7 months before becoming a client, average 9 month payday, right? But if they don't have an understanding of where those realistic expectations, and then define and develop the right strategy and skill set based on their own internal timeline, then yeah, they get themselves into a world of fucking trouble. So, I would say that getting kicked in the teeth is self-induced. And I'm not trying to say this to be a dick, dude, by any means, because I understand people are hurting out there. I mean, that's why I freed up. I've essentially, cost myself, 7+ figures by just offering free coaching calls this year. But I was willing to do it because I truly care about people. But, you got to sometimes tell people not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear.
It's so funny because in my market, people are like, God, you're so direct with everyone. And like, I always want to laugh. Sometimes I'm like, well, when I first got in this industry, I only watched Joshua Smith videos and he's so direct because it's like, that's what I want. I tell people all the time, it's like, the reason I'm so direct with you is because I want you to be so direct with me. If you think what I'm doing sucks, I'd rather you tell me and we can figure something out than you be like, hey, keep trying, keep doing it. And then I'm broke and then I'm out of the industry. So it's like so funny. Like, it's so hard, that balance where it's like, this isn't, I try to tell my agents, like, you want me to be like, not direct? Your sellers are going to be direct with you. Everyone in this industry is direct with you. So I need to get you prepared for that because you came to me to make money. And if I keep saying like, keep trying, it's not going to work, or, hey, the market will come back around. So you say that, obviously, like, I truly feel the same with you. I feel like there's like people crushing it or like 2 deals a year. There's no like 12 deals anymore. And I feel like a lot of people are going part-time. Do you feel like if you're a newer agent right now, to get all the systems in place, it's best to just go to a well-oiled machine team and take that lower split right now, especially in this crazy hard market, because you're not going to probably get the easy deals like we had the last few years.
Dude, I mean, it's nuanced, right? So just like a lot of things, dude, there's, I honestly think it's for like those that are truly committed. I think we're facing and experiencing the biggest opportunities we've ever seen in this industry. So I think if you're brand new jumping in, like, this is the perfect time, to jump into this industry. Because again, there's just so many people that got, like, where I'm having the biggest trouble with, like, internally, is it with like being a real estate team leader and real estate company owner, is the seasoned agents that got such bad habits that aren't willing to change and adapt. And then they're just bitching, moaning, and whining. Like right now, like when I recruit, like, I'd rather recruit a fresh agent brand new out of school, whether they go in my team division or in the company division. Like, they can have massive success either way, but they don't have those bad habits yet. But then from there, I think, again, this just comes down, like, self-awareness is so important. we really need to do that self-awareness and just be like, okay, am I willing to do what it takes to go out there and create the success that it takes on my own? Or, based on my track record, my personality, my skill set, my situation, does it make more sense to plug into a team that, like, okay, I can take a brand new agent fresh out of school, put them in our leads given division, and usually have them pop in, you know, I mean, at least 2 to 3 escrows in their first 30 days with me, you know. So then from there, now they might be making 30% of the commission. Yeah, right. Because and
Yeah.
that for that to happen, it's like you're going to be in our Zillow Flex division. Zillow's going to take 40%. Then we got to split that 50-50. So instead of making 10 or 15 grand per, you might be making 3,500 bucks per, but it's got immediate paydays, pretty damn quick paydays. But this is where because people again are just so focused on the commission check, but it's not assessing all the other things. Like, number one, do you have the self accountability and the self drive when you don't have a boss to show up each and every single day, even though you don't have a boss and nobody's gonna, like, do you have the self discipline to get your ass out of bed at 4 a.m. every single morning and be the first one in the office? Okay, do you have the discipline to sit there and do your 100 dials a day and 10 conversations per day? Do you have the system, the skill set, and the reason why I say track record is we all have a personal track record up to this point in our life. Like, what have your habits, behaviors, and actions to this point taught you about how, not saying that you can't change, because we all can change, I mean, I used to be, 300 pounds, morbidly obese, crazy alcoholic. Like, I've chose to change habits, behaviors in my life. But that for most people isn't something they're willing to do,
Yeah.
right? So then from there, it's just, again, some people need to be on a team, and like, I never joined a team. I didn't want to. I knew I wanted to create my own team, but I also knew that, like, I'm a fucking workhorse. Like,
Yeah.
I also, and I had 9 years of a sales background before I got into, before I got into real estate. So, I knew certain things about myself. So I was willing to bet on me, but I knew that I could pull this off, and it worked out. But not everybody has that, right? And I'm not trying to say that I'm somebody special, because I'm not. I don't have any special skills, per se. But this is just to cut that off, because I'll keep blabbing on here. Having that self awareness of because again, there's too much evidence out there, and I see it every fucking day, of people going in, murdering, and crushing it, even right now. Um, Whether they're going indie or plugging into a team. So it really just depends on what you're made of.
Yeah. We always hear the saying that we are who we surround ourselves with. Like, who are you on a regular basis surrounding yourself, and why do you, and who are those people, and why did you pick them?
So my wife, my 3 kids, and my 2 dogs.
Nice. Nice.
And so I used to be this big believer in, oh, you're an average of the 5 people that you spend most time with. I don't really buy into that philosophy anymore. Like, meaning that, okay, like in this season of my life with my kids, whatever, like, dude, I'm not, really spending time. Like, I'm so busy with business. And then when I'm not busy with business, like, I want to maximize my time with my wife, my kids, my dogs, like, those other things. It's just that season of life. But, when that shit came out, like with Jim Rohn, I don't know if he was the first one, but he was kind of the guy that made that shit famous. We weren't in the era that we are today. It's like, okay, like today, dude, like, I can sit there and learn from Elon Musk and essentially be in the same room with him without being in the same room with him by going on, X Spaces and listening to him on X, right? So I'm like, at this phase of my life, now I'll answer the question the other way of earlier on in my life, where I
Yeah.
needed to be surrounded by other people, but like, I've developed the mindset, and where I don't need that anymore, because now I'm so fucking self accountable, self driven. But then through books, through YouTube, through podcasts, all of that, like, I can enter those conversations and get. And we're kind of in an interesting time of history where that shit. Like, when I got in the business, dude, there was no. I mean, I got in 2020 or 2005, right? So there was no smartphones, there was no YouTube, there were no podcasts. Like, you had to get in the right rooms, to have these conversations. Now, today, anybody can. I mean, I had a great conversation with a Remax realtor the other day in Africa that listens to my podcast. Right. And he reached out to me for a free coaching call and, I mean, they don't have an MLS. Their situation's way different, but real estate's real estate. So I'm doing my best to navigate him, but at no point in time, history could people have just jumped on something like this and feel like they're in the room with you and I, two top producers just
Yeah.
jamming. So, but then there was a point in time where, yeah, dude, like I wasn't as disciplined. I was weaker mentally, where, yeah, I needed to be around, I needed a more positive environment to be around those people, you know. So, and I don't know what your original question was. I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
dude.
just like who when you first started, were there people that you were trying to be around? Obviously, I know from other podcasts you were talking about there were certain, but at the time were you just hanging out with top producers in the industry, or did you have other people outside the industry that you were also being around with?
No, dude. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Perfect. So then, look, I'm not one of those that's ever been okay. Anybody that doesn't align with my vision, that's driven at the same level that I am, I got to cut those people out of my life. I've never been that person, right?
Yeah,
Because there are people that are really important to me in my life, family, other people that aren't driven in the same way. That maybe they choose a life of mediocrity, and that's what winning is for them. But I love the fucking shit out of them. I'm not gonna cut them out of my life.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right. But then outside of those, so what I did early on is I gotta just made a core list of, okay, like who are the people that I truly love, that love me, and I had to define what love means, and how could I tell if like this was a truly important person or if they were important to me. So I could just cut out the bullshit acquaintances, all that crap. So then from there, outside of that inner circle, everybody else that I started spending time with was intentional, based around the goals that I have. So they either what I'm seeking there is, okay, people that have either achieved what I'm looking to achieve or are on their path to achieving it, that are driven, that are like-minded, that, one of the rules that I've set, and I actually learned this from one of my coaches, Camille Rose Taylor, one of my long-term coaches. She's like, you need more feeders than needers in your life. So who are the people that need you, that suck your energy out, that are needy? And then who are the people that feed you that inspiration, right? That feed you that information, that feed you that inspiration. So, outside of that kind of core inner circle, then from there, anybody that I'm at, and I'm like, dude, I need the feeders,
yeah,
right? That I can learn the right knowledge from, right? And then from there, yeah. So like, yeah, I could go hang out with somebody I was successful in, fuck, I don't know, but NASCAR driving, but like I could give two fucks about NASCAR driving. So like I had to also make sure that, the things that were important to me, the goals that I'm achieving, like, yeah, I'm learning from the right people and doing everything I can to surround myself, with those people. And this question I get a lot though is like, because like, okay, you get somebody that's super successful, that's super busy, like, okay, time becomes their biggest issue. So then how do you get somebody to be willing to mentor you, to spend time with you, to share their knowledge when again, you have nothing to offer and nothing to reciprocate? So how do you find great mentors? And you're in a situation where you can't pay them the money, the big money that they, because then you get to a certain level, like you got, yeah, certain mentors that, money can't buy their time,
yeah,
right there.
yeah,
I mean, these are guys making, $36,000 an hour, 24/7. Like you can't fucking pay them for an hour of their time. So how do you then align yourself with them? Right. And I found a few different ways of going out there and doing this. So first off, because one of my initial goals, and it still is a goal, but like one of my early on goals was, okay, I want to build up the Rolodex where because we've all heard this saying that, your net worth is your network. So I want to build up my Rolodex where to a point where there's not a problem that I will face where I don't end up having the right person that I can call, kind of like going back to like Henry Ford's five
yeah,
buttons
yeah,
on his desk, right? Where it's like, oh, it doesn't matter who it is, like I can call them, based on a problem that I'm having. Not just that I have their cell phone number, but that they would be willing and want to take my call. So then from there, like I've always looked at this of, not begging them to mentor me, but how can I add value to their life? Like what can I do to add value to their life to give to them? So like one of my mentors, for example, I saw they had a post on Facebook. This was years ago. But that they were asking like who's the best website, development company for, XYZ. So I reached out to them and I was like, hey, what are you looking for? I'm own a tech company, got a lot of great, I got a lot of great, connections in the tech world. Like, what specifically are you looking for? So she told me what she was looking for. I'm like, okay, give me a couple days. I'll come back to you with the best contact. What she didn't know was I went to my team because I knew we could build it. I'm like, I want this done. I want you to stop every project that we're working on. I want this built out. I want this delivered. I want this functional. I want this badass. And I want to be able to deliver to this lady as a gift in 48 hours. So when she thought I was just coming back to, okay, hey, here's some contacts. No, I delivered it to her and I wouldn't
Wow.
accept payment. Yeah, right. Now that, time, whatever probably cost me, I don't know, 10 grand, right? Between
Hmm.
development time that, but then from there, dude, like, okay, we quickly became friends. Yeah, right. So going from a giving aspect, so one of my mentors, Ryan Blair, who when I started my podcast, I was like, okay, there's two people I want on my podcast where I would deem this to be a win: Grant Cardone and Ryan Blair. I got Grant Cardone on, but I couldn't get Ryan Blair on. Couldn't, this dude, like by the time he's 40, had over $1 billion worth of business exits and, probably my favorite serial entrepreneur and just become a great friend and great mentor of mine now. But I couldn't get him on, couldn't get him on, couldn't get him on. Well, then I, heard through the grapevine that he was getting ready to launch and release a new book. So then from there, okay, I found that, okay, he was pre-selling his book. So then I reached out to who, the pre-seller, and I was like, hey, what's the max amount of books that I can buy? And they're like, okay, we're pre-selling, but you can only buy 100. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy the max I can buy 100 books. Now, from this, though, I was like, okay, I'm going to use this to hopefully get him on the podcast, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to, have 100 books that I'm going to do a giveaway on his podcast to promote his new book that he's out there promoting and trying to release and push. But then from there, for anybody to qualify for the book, they had to go buy his first book. So now I'm like, okay, now we got 2 book sales for him. But then if they did that and then shot me the receipt that they bought his first book, then I would send them on my dime the new book, plus I gave them a free GSD mode podcast shirt, right? So now setting all this up, I still didn't know if he would even come on the podcast, but then I finally got to his publicist, whatever, and kind of impressed him. So he was supposed to only give me 15 minutes and him give me an hour. And then through that podcast, whoever, then we became friends and kept that relationship going, right? So there's always a way. And here's the thing, like, okay, people that are extremely financially successful, they typically are very charitable. So then you might be like, well, Josh, I don't have the money to do things like that. Okay, cool. Like, find out what charities they're involved in and go donate time at their charity, that they're involved in, volunteer at that, get a chance to meet them and get face to face with them. Or you go to somebody, I've done this one too, of, okay, knowing that their time is probably 10, 20, 30 times more valuable than your time, go to them and be like, hey, if I can get an hour of your time just to pick your brain and ask you some questions, I'll give you 15 hours of my time, and volunteer, whether it's a charity you want me to volunteer at or anything that you need. I will give you 15 hours of my time in exchange for 1 hour of your time. Now a lot of people aren't willing to go out there and do that shit, but that just shows me that they really don't want the mentorship.
Well, that's the crazy thing is you don't know this story, but when I went and spoke at your office, I said I was going out there for some other reason, but I literally only went out there to go speak at your office and meet with you. So drove 5 hours one way, got a hotel, met you, went spoke the next day, drove 5 hours back just to meet you in person.
Yeah, we
Like,
became homies out of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
but
Like,
people don't like they don't understand. Like it's like this window of opportunity. It's like crazy. It's like how many times there's an opportunity that you're just missing because you're not thinking in the right way. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. So for you, like, what is a goal that no one would think you have? Right? Like, obviously, you're very driven in work, but like, do you have a goal that like no one would guess that you have?
Dude, I got a lot of crazy little mining goals. I think what surprises most people is I no longer set goals, like
Mm,
big goals. And I used to, and I think that there's a time and place for them. The biggest mistake I ever made, and the reason why I'm talking about some of these mistakes is I find that it can be easy to figure out what to do. What's much more difficult on this journey is to figure out what not to do. So the biggest mistake probably of my life and career was spending so much time setting and chasing external goals versus internal goals. And really, like this is why I talked about earlier, really just spend that time to unpack, detach from social media, because like anybody can go out there and figure out their purpose, their why, what's most important to them, but those answers are within. The only way to do that is like you got to fucking detach. Right now we got you got the world just telling you what your life should be, what your goals should be, and I allowed myself to get sucked into that too, with goals being the house, the cars, all this shit, and then I can't remember who said it, but I heard this recently of somebody that was very financially successful saying that, yeah, that you can go buy the houses, you can go live in the houses, but then he said, he's like, but you still got to bring you got to still bring yourself
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's no escaping this. So then as I started unpacking it and really identifying, okay, what's most important to me, and then again, I've just found internal goals has been the secret driver for me. So then from there, like my only goal in life, dude, at this point, and it's been this way for a while, is when I look in the mirror and that person looking back at me, that reflection, I want to be proud of that person that I see, and not just from an aesthetic standpoint of my body. I'm talking
Because you're
about. I mean, that's
shredded
part
right
of it.
now. You're shredded
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
So that's part of it. But then also like when I'm looking at that motherfucker's eyes, looking at that motherfucker's soul. Like, am I proud of that person? Like whom must I become? So then that I'm truly proud, not bullshitting myself, but I'm truly proud of that person I'm looking back at and who that person's become. Because the reality is, dude, like I've made it, I've lost it. My on a, if you scale back on a long enough, like if you scale back far enough, it looks like my trajectory has been all good and positive. But dude, it has been fucking ups and downs, nightmares, peaks, valleys. It's been hell and back and more hell. Like I've been broken, struggled much more than I've had the opposite. You know, and honestly, like with all the awards, the accolades, the material shit that I bought, like none of that matters. I'm not proud. Like I'll get asked sometimes of like, oh, dude, you've been voted third top realtor in America by the Wall Street Journal. You got all this. You've been featured in Forbes and Inc. magazine. And is that stuff awesome? And I'm like, I don't want to sound like I'm not appreciative, but not really. I'm like, what I'm really proud of is all the adversity and the bullshit that I had to push through and the person that and the strength I've had to develop to push through that. So that surprises a lot of people when I'm like, dude, I don't have goals. Right. It's just outside like my purpose, my mission in life is to fucking look in that mirror and be proud of what that person is that I see. Now then from there, I have standards. So instead of chasing goals, I chase standards. What are the standards? The core values, the standards that I have. So like, okay, I have a standard that I'm going to be up every single morning at 4 a.m. Right. I have a standard that I do not eat bullshit. Like bullshit does not go in my mouth. I eat the same 5 meals every single day. I have a standard that I kick my ass in the gym for 2 hours every single day.
No
I
Taco
have a
Bell anymore?
yeah, no, no,
No.
no, none of that. Yeah, yeah. So hey, I have certain just standards, and then obviously have
Mhm.
standards with business. That hey, I got a standard that I'm going to do everything I can each and every single day with the amount of hours that I've allotted myself for business to grow, expand into the best entrepreneur and the best person I possibly can. So then that way I can have the most impact that I possibly can. So it's like when you're like, well, how do you get out this daily content? How do you put out all of this
Yeah.
stuff? Right? It's because, dude, I know I got a moral obligation, to go out there and impact as many people. But that's a standard for me. And look, I might sound like, oh, Josh is some good guy, gives all this shit away. Look, to the honest truth is I do it because it makes me fucking feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Right?
You're
Like,
actually really selfish. Like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing
It's
the
like
things that
it's
make you feel good. Like I think I try to tell people all the time, like every agent I have, I'm like, you have to become the most selfish person in the world right now. And they're like, I got my kids, I got my wife, I got all. I go, you need to become so selfish because if you don't take care of yourself, you'll never be able to take care of them. If you're unhappy, they're unhappy. If you're broke, they're broke. You got to take care of yourself first before you can do anything else. And that's actually something I learned from you. Like 2014, I learned that from you. Like,
yep.
isn't it crazy that I you're awfully like leading the way, but like if you watched all your content for over the years, you repeat a lot of the stuff. Is there ever come a point in time where like I've said that before? Or how many times am I going to say this? Or how many times do people need to hear the same thing over and over and over?
No, no, because it's success doesn't happen. Success happens through repetition.
Mm.
So number one, because I get asked that quite a bit of like, because like you only hear me saying it with coaching clients, but then from there in the business, like my people hear me saying that same shit daily too, but then from them, I know that, okay, the teacher appears when the student's ready. So they're not going to receive the message until they're ready to receive it. So repetition is really important for them, but then from there, just equally as important, that repetition is really important for me, to constantly hear this shit over and over and over, right? Because it's like, dude, there's nothing new,
Yeah.
with this shit. It's like, I was just having a conversation the other day, because so many people are looking for that magic pill. And I'm like, dude, like the top of the top in this industry are doing nothing different than the amateurs, those that are struggling. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. There's nothing, but the difference is their level of consistency, but then their level of mastery of those things. So it's like, okay, like most agents will, just go out there and do a half-ass open house. Do an open, there's no, just because this listing was available, they do it, they go out, throw 6, 12 signs, and then they just bitch and moan that the open house wasn't effective. Now, we're both doing open houses, but how do I get, like, I even have agents in my own market, same cities, same days, everything's the same, and they'll bitch and moan because they only got 3 to 5 people through. I'm like, okay, well, we're averaging well over 25 people through an open house right now, and having massive, like, we're not doing an open house and not popping a deal. Like, it's just an
Yeah.
impossibility, right? But then from there, it's like, what is the difference? Okay, well, we chunk, like, this is divide and conquer, and this is what the pros do, right? So, they make sure that they have the right strategy, the right process, and the right skill set. So we start looking at this of, okay, number one, with an open house, I got property selection. Number two, I got pre-marketing. Number three, I got setup. Number four, I got, the sign up process. Number five, I got the tour process. At the end of the tour, that exists to ask for the appointment. And then number six, if I can't get that appointment, then boom, I got the follow-up protocol. So it's chunking those down and making sure that we're executing at the highest possible level, mastering those at the highest possible level, and then mastering and acquiring the skill set, that's supported with those things. So that's one of the biggest, fallacies that, unsuccessful people have in this industry is they just assume, that that's how they're just looking for that, getting that magic pill. They just, I haven't been able to crack. No, dude, it's like, again, none of that exists out there. There's no
Yeah.
secrets. It's just that you are choosing to fucking put half-ass effort into an activity, and output always equals input. What
Well,
you
the
put
thing
into
is like
something
when
is
you
what you
say
get out of
50
it.
open house signs, like I only knew how to do open houses through you. I only knew to do mega. So like I don't work open houses anymore. My team does, and it's like, yeah, you gotta put 50 out. 50, it's like, dude, yes, it might take. I was like, I put 50 out in a suit in the summer. Like it is what it is. And then you're like, you gotta put out 50. And it's like, oh, I put out six. I'm like, well, six, you're just wasting your time. So for you, like, do you feel like the direction the industry is going, do you think it's just going to narrow up how many agents are out there because like the top are just going to get really good and eliminate the most all the people that aren't taking this serious?
Yeah, dude. And look, I don't think that this is a real estate industry thing. I think it is a just life, right? So if we look at this, the era that we are in, the middle class is being removed. And, I had a mentor who's been telling me this for like 20 years, he's like, look, dude, there's no reason for the middle class to exist anymore. It was born out of the Industrial Revolution. If you look at before the Industrial Revolution, dude, like, we're pretty much just all small business owners, merchants. There was a necessary need for the middle class to be born, to get big, to get strong. But now that we are going through deglobalization and deindustrialization, there's just no need for it anymore. Now, when he would tell me that, okay, it would make sense to me. I just never thought I would see the acceleration of this. I thought this was something that would be happening like 2050, not fucking in the 2020s. So we're living that now. So this isn't real estate. This, like, if we look at this in all aspects of life, the middle class is getting torn apart. So we're coming to, instead of having three classes, poor, middle, and then rich. It's like there's just two, right? You're going to have the haves and the have-nots. So that's going to carry over to all industries as well. And that's what's happening in our industry. Like you said earlier, it's like there really is no middle ground. Either people are just fucking dying or they're crushing it. Now we'll see how long the people that are dying can hang on before they just have to drop out of the industry and become obsolete. And I'm sure NAR dues will start skyrocketing with these
Oh, they have
lawsuits,
to.
and right. So it might get harder for them to stay in the game. But either way, they're going to be doing such a minuscule amount. So then now, yeah, it turns into an element where it's going to get more competitive, because like when everybody's good, or at least pretty damn decent to good to exceptional, it creates a more competitive landscape. So this is where, like I talked about earlier, man, you got to treat your business as a business. You better start obsessing over skill set acquisition, because you got, killers like, Adam and myself out there that, are obsessed with this stuff. And then you got things that, it's like people like want to bury their head in the sand around AI, and all this tech. And I'm like, look, dude, like, I'm not one that believes that AI is going to replace the real estate agent, but I'm fully convinced and I fully believe that the agents, the teams, the brokerages that master AI, incorporate it, will then 100% put those that don't out of the business. I mean, the shit that I'm able to do with AI, like I'm able to get twice as much done with half the staff and half the time today than I used to be able to.
Just in
I mean,
YouTube, like I put out 30 clips in the next 30 days, all on AI. Just like take an old podcast, throw it in AI, they clip it for us, we watch it, throw the video into another AI, they write the descriptions for us and a title that's way better than I can do. And it's literally like what would take me a full day now took me an hour yesterday. Like it's
yeah, dude.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, just shit like that, and then shit like, okay, like I don't know how the FCC is going to crack down on this, but one thing that I'm testing very heavily right now is having to replace agents and ISAs at least for the outbound and inbound calls.
Hmm.
And dude, we've got this AI. So here's the cool thing about AI is I can have it do 90,000 dials simultaneously at once. There's no capacity. And we've got dude the script like we've got this now. There's some glitches, right? There's some issues with tonality, but when we're putting it like for like, dude, it's converting better than most agents. The vast majority of
Well,
agents can go out there and convert.
and the
Now
question is
there's
how much worse, how much percentage is it worse? Maybe 10% worse? Like it's good enough. It's literally
yeah.
it's probably good enough. Yeah, maybe
Oh, dude, I
one
had
man can
one the
have
other
10 more
day, dude. So
percent.
I'm listening to the recording the other day, and so it's following up with a buyer lead. This was like a Zillow lead, and it was just like, hey, it's been a little while since we talked. Just wanted to circle back with you. Last time that we spoke, it looked like you had some interest in possibly buying here in X Y Z, and just wanted to see if that's something that you still have some interest in, or if things have maybe changed. Like you feed it the original initial
Yeah.
scripts, right? But then from there, ladies like, oh, we decided to hold off. Yeah, hey, no worries. Oh, I totally get and understand wanting to hold off. Just out of curiosity, what's caused you to want to possibly hold off? Well, I'm pregnant, and we decided to wait until we have the baby before we go make a move. But now this is where the AI picks up all on its own. Oh, hey, congratulations! I know that that's a big. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was like perfect for it, right? But then it asked, hey, just out of curiosity, when are you expecting? Oh, we're expecting in the next about 30 days from today. Then the AI was like all on its own. Yeah, right. Like you can never tell that this was not an AI having this conversation. This is a phone conversation. But then it was okay. Well, how long after you have the baby do you want to get settled in before you start looking for your next home? So it could set the timeline. Shit like it's getting good, right?
Dude.
So then from there, when you're looking at okay, now I can also feed certain prompts, and I can set this up through different AI connectors where I can put like 10 different AIs all together. Where okay, I can go to Google, have Google scrape. Let's just say I'm in Silicon Valley, and my clientele are software engineers. Okay, anybody with the title that has this, that then, so scrape all social media platforms, with Google automatically, grab me all their social media platforms. Then from there, I can have AI go and scrape all their contact information off of that, automatically add to my CRM, automatically trigger campaigns. Like all of that is happening in the background, whether it's writing blog, so all of this stuff from lead gen, lead follow up, to just the overall process. Okay, if that allows me, maybe my capacity pre AI and pre really, because I mean, I do again, like being in the business in 2005, dude, like there was no DocuSign, there was no
I know.
smartphones, there were no scans. So, I'm used for shit taking a lot longer, right? But maybe my capacity as an individual agent is 4 deals a month, but now my capacity is 12, let's just say, or it becomes to that point where you're able to just do so much more. So then, hey, if I want to undercut my competitors by doing this, doing a better job, but doing it at half the amount, so the consumer, I know agents hate listening to commission compressions, but everything's negotiable. So let's just say, hey, I got a superior product that you also, have to pay half as much for, where you get a better result, better experience, but I can get 2 or 3 times the amount of revenue versus my competitors because I'm so effective and efficient. It's fucking game over, dude. Right?
Well, it's crazy. It's like you're getting real pros in this now. That's the thing is like you have real like I have conversations with some team leads and I'm like you guys are like legit. Like I remember having a call with or talk with Dan Beer down in San Diego and he was like I'm a company. I'm not just a real estate company. I'm hiring my CFO from an actual other company. Like we're not just real estate agents. We're an actual big company and we treat ourselves that way. We're not just realtors, and
Yep.
that's been the shift I've seen the most. It's like there's people in here that you put them in any space, they're going to dominate. You've done so many businesses. You get whatever you do works anywhere. You just have picked real estate as the model that you like the most, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and
It's
that's where I
insane.
think, you know, yeah. So the expansion of teams, and then and look, again, we're seeing this in all industries. The consolidation of, like, there's less mom and pop restaurants. There's less, so like, if I had to have a future prediction, let's just say 10 years from now, I think that we'll probably see, you know, a, I mean, at least 50% of the industry be removed, right? But then from there, we'll see a lot of huge consolidation, to the big organizations like EXP, and I say this being a guy that's not even with EXP,
Yeah.
but it just gets to a point where, like, you can't compete with an indie, no different than, BlackRock buying up every fucking thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, okay, like, the bigs are getting bigger, the smalls are getting smaller, but then from there, you know, um, they could just offer so much more in such a more effective, efficient way that others just can't compete.
I'm surprised. I assume it's already happened, but I'm assuming you get offers all the time for people buying out, completely buying you out. No.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, not all the time, but I've definitely, been approached, you know, quite a few times. Yeah. So
Yeah, I bet. Well, Josh, you're a busy man. We've done this an hour. I really appreciate it. Everyone, make sure you go subscribe to Josh's channel. Literally, he has an amazing course. I'm part of his university. It's amazing. You should definitely click, go pay for that. But even if you don't have the money right now, just watch his YouTube channels. Like, literally, the value is completely there. It's unbelievable. No one puts out better content than Josh. I really appreciate your time, man. Really do. This was everything.
yeah. No, I appreciate you having me
Yeah.
on, man. This is a lot of fun, brother.
All right, guys, make sure you guys comment below if you have any questions, share, like, subscribe. Until next time, guys, peace.